Steve Johnson is a Minnesota-based ghostwriter and outdoor enthusiast who has written and edited dozens of guidebooks, travel books, and business titles. He has worked as a writer and editor for Forbes and National Geographic. Welcome to Notes from a Ghost, a podcast about stories and the people who tell them. My name is Charlie, and I'm a ghostwriter. I love a good story. I hope you enjoy this one. Steve, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Charlie. It's really a pleasure.
All right, let's get started with I think we have a favorite genre in common. What are your all-time favorite outdoor nonfiction titles?
Well, there's a long list of those, but we have talked before, and I really gravitate towards people like Edward Abbey and such like that, who are they really got a close, deep connection to nature and the outdoor space and for what it means. And a lot of, what has happened to it and what we're doing to it. And it's just good to read someone with that kind of a passion. It's really difficult for me to pick out a single title, but that kind of an author is kind of what I lean towards.
Every time I sit down with like a tech leader or whatever, and they talk about growth, I think about that thing he said, unconditional growth is the philosophy of a cancer cell, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. He was something else. And it's inspiring to read someone again with that kind of just really soul deep connection to what matters out there. And it's disappearing so fast and in such bad shape. It's just sad to see. And at least being able to read that and then get inspired to write in that same sort of a way, is all I can ask for, and do what I can to emulate that.
He was buried in his sleeping bag, wasn't he?
I think so, yes.
Wow. Do you have a piece of gear that you would take to the grave?
That's a great question. I've got an old North Face shell jacket that I've had for 25 years that is pretty dear to me. That might be the one.
Yeah, you're nothing without a good outer layer.
Yeah, that's seen a lot of miles and brought me through a lot of great adventure. That might be the ticket.
Is there a book that you can point to that either made you want to write or it helped you make that connection between the outdoors and the literature? Again,
very difficult to single out a title. I think just in that genre, that group of writers like Abbey and Carson and some of the older, Muir. I love reading John Muir stuff. Talk about a guy who just wanted to connect all the way with something. I'm gonna throw a piece of hardtack in my pocket, and I'm just gonna go and take off for 2 weeks in the Sierras or the Alaska somewhere and just explore. And I'm gonna stop here and wander around, or I'm gonna climb that tree in the storm and get the feel of it. That just really resonated with me. I grew up in the country. Every step I took as a kid was outdoors. And then being able to see someone like these people write with that kind of passion that I had too, that I was feeling when I was out there, I think that's what kind of triggered it for me way back when I was a kid.
How does someone put that connection on the page? And how do you find the story or the narrative at the heart of a really epic trip or a beautiful place?
Yeah, that I think is something that's different for everyone, but it manifests in different ways. And I can just by example share that it could be one. I remember a day in Colorado on a 13-hour epic with a buddy up to Mount Holy Cross, and it was a long, tough, hard day, and the drop dead scenery that you couldn't stop staring at. It was super challenging, and we were destroyed at the end of it. And we're still talking about it, 20 years later, like it just happened. So it could be a day like that. or, I've had moments up in the mountains where I just sit there and you can just hear the mountains breathe and listen to dead silence. And that could be something that brings you back, that stands out. And way up north, Wisconsin, in the middle of the night and hear a wolf howl, it's just, those are the kinds of things that make it really easy to come back home and just share that experience on the page.
And you've shared it in an outlet that is the dream for a lot of outdoor writers, National Geographic. What would be your advice for someone who hopes to place their work in that magazine? And what are they looking for? They seem to have very exacting standards.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the name itself, obviously, global presence, been around more than 100 years. The magazine itself and the books division are totally different animals. And I'm focused on the book side of things. We got a lot of really great travel outlets and pieces that come out by, people that I've worked with before. So I see longtime pros show up. I see new writers occasionally show up. They're a big, giant organization, so things don't move fast typically. So patience is one thing that is key working with them. It's they have such a wide range of subject matter, so it makes it a little easier to focus a pitch on something that might fit in your particular expertise. For anything from animals to climate change to where to information and articles. So it's a matter of persistence and patience.
Switching gears a little bit from the great outdoors to desk job, day job work. One thing that I found very interesting about your ghostwriting work, having seen the behind the scenes of it a little bit, you have been in a position to write books at a very high cadence where you're I don't want to say churning them out to cheapen what you're doing, but you are getting them written at a faster than normal pace. What's your system for doing that? And maybe for not driving yourself crazy in the process?
Absolutely. It's interestingly enough, I kind of got into ghostwriting by accident. I was been in the outdoor space since college, and that was kind of where my passion lies and where I was focused on. But at some point, it's in this whole freelance world, we're all familiar with it. There's going to be a hole in the job stream, and nothing that's coming along. So you look for other things, and I happened to spot something with Forbes books that they were looking for a writer. So I thought, well, I might be able to try that. So I just gave it a shot, and coming in with enough of a portfolio to begin with to help me land the first one. And it's an entirely different process of work than I was used to, but it was fascinating. Working with that first client and learning what's in their head. And then, having the skill set on the outset to be able to turn that into a story that sounds like that person and is that person's voice. It was fascinating to learn that. And since then, it just snowballed. And at the moment, I have 4 going on at the same time. And yeah, it's long days, really long hours sometimes. But I've gotten to the point where I can dedicate, say, 2-3 hours on a particular book and know that I'm that person for those 3 hours and just write like hell and then stop. I have to do a forced stop at some point, many points actually throughout the day, so I can regroup, get away from the screen, get outside, do some exercise, do something, and then come back in and move to a different one. Now I'm this other client, and now I'm doing his book, and now I do 3 hours of that. And then you just repeat that process. And if I get into a groove, yes, it's been great. I've been able to to keep a high pace going. It's tough. There's no getting around it. There's some weeks like right now where I'm pretty beat. Some deadlines coming up on top of each other. You just got to really put in the time when that happens. But as long as I don't lose the quality, as long as I make sure that the book that I'm working on makes a difference and matters, that's my really ultimate end goal. It's my book too, and I want the client to know that, and that's the kind of passion I'm putting into it. So at the end of the project, I want that thing to be like it was my own. So it makes it a little easier to sit down and really put in the hours. I mean, I love what I do, so it's a pretty great space to be.
Something you said about voice, I think when people who aren't ghostwriters ask me about ghostwriting, that's kind of the main thing they want to know is how do you do that? How do you sound like someone else? How do you, or even clients, well, how are you going to capture my voice? Or I was talking about this the other day with a ghostwriter, and I know I've done my job when we get to the first or second round of edits and they are cutting out things that they actually said verbatim that I kept from our original material because they don't think it sounds like them.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, they think that I sound the stuff I wrote sounds like them. But how does that work? How do you do that? How do we do that?
It's that can be tough. I've definitely had clients where it just didn't mesh that well. So it was more work than a partner project, and you still come out the end with a good book and the client's happy about it. But the clients and the authors that are really committed to it and want to put out not just their voice, but really who they are as a person, that soul beat passion again. You can tell from the outset that kind of client is going to be a lot easier to work with. And then if that's that, you can see it right away. Now that happens. Now your personalities mesh. I'm able to have, regular conversations and interviews with all of my clients, and we turn it into a conversation. You follow an outline or plan of some kind, of course, but the thing that works best for me is just really getting to know who this person is. And when I have the interview material in front of me, well, it's more than just reading what that is. Now, in between paragraphs, I'm seeing that person. I can hear that person talk. I can see what they're all about. I have one right now that's so excited to work with me. She wants to adopt me into the family. It's one of those things where you really get connected, and that's when you can get the best information and the best story on a page.
Yeah, that's been my experience. There's a project I'm working on now where he routinely has us both in tears during these interviews, and the words that are coming out of that process are just electric.
It's powerful. Yeah, it's tough. Ghosting is a tough road. There's no getting around it, and it's definitely not for everybody. I'm fortunate enough to be able to be in this space now and have this kind of contact with some amazing people putting out books that are going to literally change people's lives. And that makes it really satisfying as a writer on this end. You're behind the scenes, of course, and that's what we are. We are ghosts, and we're behind the curtain, and nobody sees us, but we know that's our work is in there, and that's going to make a difference with people and drive change, maybe shake up an industry. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a part. It always reminds me of you read Charlotte's Web, right?
Mm-hmm.
The part at the end about how like the spider for whom Charlotte, who made the whole thing happen, was nowhere to be seen.
You're
right. Which of course, I mean, I guess she's a writer at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's great. I don't think I'm not speaking for everyone, of course, but there's a knack for this, an art for this that it doesn't fit for everybody, And there could be, I know some journalists who are phenomenal writers, and they do the thing in that space, and they've, we've gotten together and had conversations, and they, can't understand really. They're looking at the stuff that I do with these ghosting. How does that work? What are you doing? How do they even do that? To transfer skills. Some people can really do it well and have no problem with it. A lot focus their talents in their space, and it's tougher to get to a different space. I'm lucky enough to be able to spread around and do some of all of that. I can't probably hack it as a straight up journalist and go out and do reporting, do that kind of writing. It's a whole different game. But I can throw out an article, magazines, website, blog posts, this kind of thing all day long. I can switch gears into, where to outdoor industry writing, climate change, environment stuff, all of that. Yeah, but more in long form, I guess, is my strong suit.
And I guess that's part of the excitement, right? It isn't just about stepping into one voice. We get to have so many voices.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, if someone has a life-changing book in them and wants to get in touch, where can they find you?
Well, I do have a website that's woefully neglected. I need to update that, but it's higherlatitude.com. I've got most of my information on there, contact page, and some of my work. A lot of it's going to be updated and reposted soon, but that's the easiest way.
Steve, thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it, Charlie. It's been a real pleasure.
Great talking to you. We got to get out on the trail one of these days.
Count on it, sir.
Come to Ireland.
Oh, you bet. I'm on the way.
If you have an epic story, I'd love to hear it. You can find me at dailyprose.com or on LinkedIn. My links and Steve's are in the show notes. Thanks for listening.